What a day. So much has happened in the Ukraine. So much is going on, and there's still so much that will happen. First, let me take this off. I have a bit of a cold today, so I wore a mask, but let me take this off to make it easier. The place is being bombed. Like I said, Ukraine is being bombed. They've taken one major city today, that is the Russians. They'll take Kiev soon. They'll take the rest of the country soon. And the West is simply there, imposing sanctions and goading the Ukrainians on to keep fighting. Now, I'm not saying that what's happening to them is good. It's not good. It's very bad. It's very sad. And I feel for the people of the Ukraine. But I also know that at the end of the day, the Russians are going to have their way. Why? Because what they're doing is an attempt to protect their own country and stop NATO from encroaching on their border. Yes, sanctions are in place. Massive economic. Yes, sanctions are in place. Very big, powerful, frightening sanctions. Russian banks are being closed. They're doing everything. So Russian businessmen are being targeted all over the West. They've stopped the operations with the Russian central bank outside of Russia. They have devalued the ruble. They are humiliating them. They are blacklisting their sports team. They're doing all these things to them. But you know what? All Russia has to do now is turn off the gas supply to Germany, and it brings Germany to its knees. Literally, 70% of energy supplies, that is power supplies, in Europe are dependent on Russian gas. They shut that pipeline down. Certainly Germany goes to its knees, and most of Europe suffers from it. And, you know, like somebody said, a British soldier said recently, that at the end of the day, you know, nothing's going to happen because France will not be able to stand for long. At the end of the day, the Brits themselves will have to come. At the end of the day, the Brits themselves will have to come in and try to save the day, and the Americans will come in late. This is the issue. This is the problem. But this conflict is different to the First World War. This conflict is different to the Second World War. This conflict will result in the usage of nuclear weapons if we are not careful. The basic problem is that the West gave an undertaking and their word that NATO would not expand eastward of Eastern Europe when the Iron Curtain came down and the war was broken and Germany became one again. They gave their word that NATO would not encroach on the territory of nations that were originally members of the Warsaw Pact. They breached that agreement. They reneged on it, and they have now encroached and moved all the way up to the Ukraine, one nation away from the Russian borders. The Russians cannot and will not accept this. And I want to send this message out to the world that we need to do a lot more in terms of balanced viewing. We need to do a lot more in terms of understanding the situation. We need to rein in our emotions. We need to understand what's going on. We need to accept the fact that there are two sides to this story. And we need to understand the implications of what the Western media agencies, particularly the Americans, CNN, BBC, the Brits, and in fact, all of them, even Al Jazeera, what they're trying to do here. They are sensitizing you and I and the whole world to prepare our minds for a war that need not be fought. We don't have to go to war. We don't have to fight Russia. We don't have to be the enemy of Russia. We have to understand that Russians are human beings as well. We have to accept the fact that they have legitimate concerns. Now, the people that are suffering the most are the Ukrainians. I feel so sorry for them. They're caught right in the middle. But I blame primarily the West for reneging on their word, for stoking up the Russian bear, for ensuring the Russians were sufficiently enraged to do what they're doing, and for ensuring that at the end of the day, the world is now applauding the possibility of a third world war. And we don't want that. We must not allow ourselves to be comfortable with that thought that, oh, let's just cross over with NATO and liberate the Ukrainians. Let NATO just do what they have to do and kick the Russians out of the Ukraine. It'll never happen. No matter how heroic you think the Ukrainian president is, no matter how much you love him, at the end of the day, the people that will control the Ukraine are the Russians. And it is simply not worth crossing that border for us to start a conflict that will engulf the entire world, because everybody will have to take sides. On the one hand, right now, you have the Russians, the Chinese, United Arab Emirates, interestingly enough, where Dubai is, and you also have the Israelis, you have the Indians, and so on and so forth. And many more will join them eventually. On the other side, you have NATO, the Americans, the Europeans, and everybody else. Where do we stand in Africa? Where do we stand in Africa? We can't just continue to lap up what is being churned out to us by CNN and the Western propaganda machine and accept what they're saying as being true and following them blindly into a major conflict which will affect each and every one of us. We need to make our own choices, reasonable choices, informed decisions based on all the relevant facts, and then take a decision as an independent nation. Nigeria is independent. We must be able to think this through, maintain the peace, take a neutral position, and understand the fact that there's far more to this than meets the eye. I end with this, a prayer for the Ukrainian people, particularly the civilians that are being killed there. A prayer for everybody that has been killed, including the Russian soldiers and the Ukrainian soldiers. But it is not as simple as many people think that, oh, one country is going in to go and violate another. It's not as simple as that. One last thing. Ukrainians should treat Africans with more respect, especially those that are trying to get out of their country to save their lives. Thank you. Now, before I leave, let me just say this. Let's put this in perspective, okay? Just a very quick one, okay? For example, let's say that a portion of Nigeria, let's say Biafra or Oduduwa Republic, manages to gain independence from Nigeria and breaks off. Fine. And then a few years later, Nigeria's mortal enemy enters into a military pact with either Biafra or Oduduwa Republic and encircles the whole of what's left of Nigeria. And then they now put nuclear weapons on Biafran soil or Oduduwan soil, pointed at Abuja and the rest of Nigeria. How would you as a Nigerian feel in that situation? Threatened. Rightly so. That is precisely how the Russians feel today. And we need to understand that, and we need to stop baiting the Russian bear. Thank you.